on alert. The repressurization at Kilauea's main crater has taken 5 days to re-energize the lava flows. The flows that had stopped just outside the transfer are once again on the move. And it's not good news from the head of Hawaii's civil defense.
Right now, the flow rate over the last 24-hour period has been approximately 10 yards per hour, so it's pretty consistent, but when you average that out, but throughout the day, we do have periods where it does accelerate and periods where it appears to slow down and even come to almost a stall. But it is active, it is advancing.
The first fingers stretch over Apa Road. The heat of the molten lava is so intense, the tarmac begins to burn. The lava flow has enough energy to keep pushing it forward. This is a shield volcano in action. The slow-moving lava flows inch along. The residents of this house would have had plenty of time to evacuate. But all it takes is the touch of one small finger of lava. If the flows pass over the main town road and keep going, the main highway will be next. If that goes, then Pahoa's 8,000 residents will be cut off from the rest of the island.
So this morning, as I mentioned, the flow is still active, still moving. As far as any questions, timeline before it hits Pahoa Village Road, as we've shared before, it's very difficult to forecast with any certainty, but based on the current distance, we're looking at sometime in the next 24, 36 hours, if it was to hold on the same track, path, and rate of advancement.
The lava creeps along, destroying everything in its path. It is burning its way towards the main road to town. Then, a stroke of luck. The lava flow has run out of steam and stops suddenly about half a block from the main road. But the threat isn't over. The lava flow has broken out in a new direction, further uphill, and is taking a new path towards Pahoa. It's now heading straight for a major shopping plaza on the outskirts of town. At the current rate, this new flow will reach the plaza in 2 weeks. Again, the people of Pahoa can only wait and see what Kilauea will do. How long Kilauea can continue erupting is unknown. Not even the scientists can say for certain.
Well, I mean, if you look at the geologic precedent, this eruption's been going on for 30 years. Over in other portions of the volcano, where we've mapped the geologic history, it's not uncommon for a hoi-hoi shield-like building flows to last up to 50 to 60 years. And on Mauna Loa, there was a period where lava flows lasted for 5 centuries.
Half a world away on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, another volcano is threatening the people who live nearby. Unlike Kilauea in Hawaii, Sinabung is a stratovolcano. It has a thick, viscous lava. When Sinabung erupts, the lava collects on the summit and builds what is called the lava dome. Each new eruption of magma adds on to the dome, pushing it outwards and making it prone to collapse. When it does collapse, it sends a rush of superheated volcanic gas and rock downhill in an avalanche called a pyroclastic flow. It burns and destroys everything in its path. pyroclastic flows are fast and deadly. In 1902, pyroclastic flows from Mount Pelée on the Caribbean island of Martinique killed 30,000 people when a hot ash cloud descended on the town of Saint-Pierre. Indonesia has 150 active volcanoes, so the threat is a constant reality. Andy Susanto is an internationally renowned volcano guide. It's arguable that he has more direct experience with Indonesia's active volcanoes than anyone in the world.
The activity of the Sinabung actually is in level 3. So level 3, that means this is in the status alert.
Level 3 is given to a volcano that has the potential to produce a large eruption.
Yeah, now we can see that there is a pyroclastic flow that you can see from here.
Level 4 indicates a volcano that is in a major eruptive phase.
According to the people from the hotels, and also that last night also was one of the biggest pyroclastic flow, and also this morning, like around 5 o'clock.
They head to a point close to the volcano, just outside the main exclusion zone. A volcano that produces this type of eruption requires extra caution.
Now you can see that our position is, I would say we are in the certain safe distance. So now we are in 4.5 kilometers. The first dangerous zone is located in 3 until 4. So any people who live in the 4 kilometers from the summit is not allowed to live there.
Natural topography defines exclusion zones around volcanoes. Here, a small river-rand gorge provide protection to channel any small to moderate pyroclastic flows that might come off the volcano.
I use this place because of this, considerations that we are still in a safe distance, and then we can see with open view, with explosions or even pyroclastic flow down to the mountains.
Over the past few weeks, a new pulse of magma has been extruding from the vent under the dome. Big blocks of lava have been pushed over the precipice. When the dome gets too big, the pressure and gravity cause small bits and rocks to break off. Suddenly, a section shears off. The rock disintegrates, releasing burning hot gases that have been trapped inside lava. The lava boulders break into small, superheated pieces of rock and ash that billow up from the volcano in an ash column.
Whew. So finally, now we just saw the eruptions with ash column. It's almost like about 1.5 kilometers, vertically, and then also spreading out down there. You can see near the valley. The activity of the Sinabung now is currently that's still quite active.
This was small, but as the dome grows over the next few days, the flows will get much bigger. Once considered dormant, Sinabung came back to life in 2010 after a 500-year slumber. A number of small towns in the danger zone have been abandoned. Several months ago, some of the people in the danger zones ignored the warnings with tragic results.
There is like a small village, actually located only about 3 kilometers from the summit. So the name of the village is Bakira, and then the next is Sukameria. That those village that was hit by the pyroclastic flow in 1st February. That 14 people were killed by that pyroclastic flow and eruptions.
Every volcano that poses a risk to populations in Indonesia is monitored by the government's geological agency. Sinabung was dormant for so long that it was not even on their radar. The volcano's mineral-rich, fertile soils attracted farming communities. When it woke up in 2010, evacuations began. 3,000 people were forced to leave their homes. The government tried to relocate as many as possible. The rest ended up at a refugee camp where they have been living for more than 4 years, waiting for new housing that the government has promised to build for them. But they are subsistence farmers, and when the volcano's activity is calm, they brave the extreme danger and go back to their villages to harvest their crops, which they sell at the refugee center market. The situation is part of life in Indonesia. This is Karangetang Volcano in North Sulawesi. Andy visits a nearby village hit by pyroclastic flows, now abandoned.
Now we are in very dangerous area. This volcano has been active long times and then it's always normally remains in level 3.
When pyroclastic flows hit a town, there is no safe place to hide. Along with the debris, there is what is called a pyroclastic surge, which is mostly made up of burning hot gases and ash.
It's quite thick, even in the floors, like almost like 5 centimeters, the thickness of a shirt. So that people is always, have to be standby here. It's quite dangerous. People has been evacuated all, so relocated, and it's not allowed to live here anymore. It's it's terrible. The situation now is in Karangetang is very active. So this volcano has been very active since May and until today.
Andy knows this situation firsthand. He too lives on a dangerous volcano that is known to produce devastating and deadly pyroclastic flows. Mount Merapi is Indonesia's most active big volcano. It erupts every 2 to 3 years and produces major eruptions every 10 to 12 years. Its last major eruption was in 2010. More than 300 people died, including Andy's close friend and mentor, Emba Pujo.
So this is the house of my, lovely friends, Mbah Pujo and his wife. He is one of the, I would say, my best, friends I have. And then I always, remember this place very, very well. In my imaginations that I still stay in the room. I still, have feeling that I still, talking with him. And then, this is the house for meeting rooms. And then this is, I know, this is for the livestock there. And then behind there, in the back, used for kitchens. And then I like this place because near volcano as my hobby and then as my, profession.
Emba inspired Andy to follow his passion for volcanoes. Emba Pujo was head of the Merapi Mountain Guiding Club, where Andy worked as a guide.
At the times, as usual, we discuss about the Merapi now is getting, more increase, and then the increase can be dangerous. But, he is old man, that I respect. And then maybe he know better than me.
Andy was away at the time of the eruption, but came back to see his friend in the hospital.
So this is the last time I visit him, and then I talked to him. But I knew already that, his wife, already died. I visit him in the hospital, in the ICU, like, something that, is bad conditions because, he got burned, almost more than 60%, his skin. And then, when I visit him, always ask me, Andy, where is my wife? Where is my wife? And I was crying.
Andy was one of the first responders who risked their own life to help victims in the immediate aftermath. This woman's husband returned to the village to tend to their animals and crops, and was caught in the eruption and died. The government has tried to find ways to protect farmers who get caught by a sudden eruption. They built an underground bunker they hoped would provide a safe haven during a pyroclastic flow. Its first trial was during an eruption in 2006. Tragically, the bunker was a failure.
You can see the layer of the bunker is about 5 meters, and with the thick wall, the member of the rescue team tried to evacuate people here. And this doesn't work, because the pyroclastic flow has the temperature about 800 until 1,000 degrees, so we can imagine.
2 people who sought refuge in it died. The intense heat was so great, it turned the bunker into an oven. It now serves as a macabre monument and tourist attraction for people coming to see Merapi.
One guy that, they died in the bathrooms, and one actually here. Maybe they tried to lock the door, but maybe it was late,
There's no way of knowing whether the 2 people held the door open, waiting for other people.
They use even excavator. They use anything, people try to help, with many people, a lot of people try to know what happened with the 2 victims.
The bunker is not the only reminder of Merapi's deadly ways. Despite the death tolls from Merapi that stretch into the thousands over the past centuries, people still choose to live here.
They depend, their life from the volcano. So they make money from the sand, from the rock, from the ash, because the ash can give the fertile soil, so anything can grow here.
They go back to their houses despite the warning level for very simple reasons.
It was, in level 3. And then also very quick that, the authority from the Volcanological Survey of Indonesia changed the status, become, level 4 in a week. So they still worry about their livestock, that they have to feed, and also try to check, what they have, their property, that anything left still safe.
In the years since the eruptions, the ruined villages serve as a potent reminder of the dangers of volcanoes.
This is about 13 kilometers from the summit. Local people call this museum, but actually this is like a private house. The name of the family is Yanto. They lost everything because of the pyroclastic flow, But he was actually in the evacuations, in the shelter. And so they collect all the things that left from the last eruptions. Local people here, they like to visit and, toward this museum because they want to study, that they want to see what happened,
The artifacts reflect the haste in which people left, unlike the volcanoes in Hawaii, where people had time to pack their belongings and move. Here, everything was abandoned. Every item is a reminder of what happens when the intense heat from a volcano interacts with man-made objects. It's another reminder that in the face of the elemental forces of nature, we are sometimes simply helpless. A wall clock has captured the moment that changed thousands of lives forever.
The last massive and the biggest eruption of Merapi volcano, this is in Friday already, 5 minutes after midnight, and the 5th November 2010. So this family just want to show to the people, to be aware for the other people, about Merapi and about the dangers of volcano.
A secondary effect of an eruption is a lahar. Heavy rains carry pyroclastic flow debris into streams and rivers. These deadly mud flows can reach much further than the initial eruption. In the town of Armero, Colombia, 23,000 people were killed when a lahar from the Nevado del Ruiz volcano buried their town. In 2010 at Marapi, a massive volume of pyroclastic debris was washed downstream. It jammed the bridge that spans Jogjakarta's main highway and caused the river to divert through the center of town. Years later, the town is still digging out, and some of its residents are still haunted by that fateful night. Many stayed at home despite a warning from the government to evacuate. That decision nearly cost some people their lives. Bapak Warto was one of them.
He was living here during the lahar flow, was buried like this, almost, get it up in the neck like this.
As he stood in the rising waters, the ash settled around his lower half, trapping him. Through the night, as the water level rose, he struggled to keep his head above water. With no immediate chance of rescue, he thought he was going to die. The river carried boulders as big as cars that crashed into houses, tearing them apart. One crashed into Warto's house. It was a lucky break. The water was diverted away from him, ultimately saving his life. Others were not so lucky. Most of the residents chose to relocate, but some, like Bapak Warto, chose to rebuild.
Here. So actually now, when we see this, actually this is his house. This is the floor, like a living room, that normally he with his family are living together, watching television. So this is was, buried by the thick of the lahar flow and then lahar deposit. And now he has already moved here. This is actually the new buildings that rebuilt from after the lahar flow. And this is something that left, from after destruction from lahar flow of Marapi volcano.
In the end, the lesson learned here is that the only safe answer is to move people away from the volcano's path. It will be years before the former residents from Sinabung's danger zone can even consider rebuilding. Most have accepted the government's plan to relocate them. Their homes will be in one of several towns built by the military. The first families have already started to move in. Here, they will be safe from the volcano. For those who live just outside the restricted zone, Sinabung's eruptions are now the new normal. They're rebuilding their lives as best they can, living in houses far enough away to be safe at night. But during the day, they're still tied to the danger zones around the volcano where they continue to grow their crops. What the future holds for the volcano is uncertain. Little is known about its eruptive history and whether this volcano is capable of a much larger eruption. For now, it remains very active. Back in Hawaii, the residents of Pahoa are once again waiting to see if they'll be forced out of their community. The new lava flows are within a city block of the shopping center. But just as before, they get a lucky break. the flow once again burns itself out. A few weeks later, this flow no longer seems to be a threat. The lava has changed direction and is now affecting an unpopulated area. However, the community that once felt it was safe from Kilauea is now living a different reality. They know that without warning, the next pulse from Kilauea could send the lava farther and destroy their town. In our era, human beings have bent the natural world to our will, cutting down forests, mowing down grasslands, and paving over natural spaces to create a world that suits our needs. But the volcanoes are an exception. They are a force of nature that we cannot tame.